Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the NLC, where we are about to bring you our final game of the day and our match of the day as Verdant take on Nord. Verdant in that last playoff spot, and with Veneer's win earlier today, this game becomes all the more important.
Yeah, I mean, Verdant have everything to fight for here, and we have seen that when teams are backed into a corner, they are willing to throw everything out. Interesting compositions at the very least, interesting and very unique strategies coming out every stage of the day. But with this one, both teams have something to prove. Nord want to prove that they can do a lot of things in the early game, and Verdant need to prove that they can beat Nord, right? So a bit more on them, and a bit more on them to show that they aren't just the early team, the team early on in the split, I should say, that then peters out towards the end. We need to see like a second wind of Verdant. Otherwise, it could be over for them by the end of the day.
And, I mean, their run-in towards the end of the split is pretty damn difficult. You heard Keeper say that Riddle are going to be facing off against Verdant tomorrow. So, Nord and Riddle, the two top teams in your penultimate week, when you are going to be locked into this playoff race, we could very much end up in a situation come the end of this week, if results go as expected, where Veneer and Verdant are tied up. And that means that being able to pick up an upset win versus someone like a Riddle or versus Nord today is absolutely massive if Verdant want to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, everybody's focus, particularly as our stream numbers keep going up, is going to be on Nord and what version of Nord we're going to see today. Are we going to see the WoW playing heavily through topside, which would be interesting given that he's against Nilla, which is a guy that we haven't talked about too much from Verdant, but is one of these top lane carry type of players? Or are we going to see Woolite and Kasing on the bot lane? Something we know is that Fury's going to be able to play around either side, and Akabane, once they decide which side it is they're going to play through, he's going to play through for it very, very well, right? His meta is almost built for someone like Akabane, who loves to do these kinds of dogmatic either top to bot or bot to top plays on repeat. So he's going to be a really good pairing whichever side they decide to play around. But again, is it going to be the WoW show, or is it going to be Woolite and Kasing showing us that they still have what it takes?
Well, because Nord have shown that flexibility, that variability. In the first few weeks, it was very much give WoW a carry, let him be on a pick that he's a lot more comfortable with, let him pop off and do his thing. But recently, we've been seeing on stuff like the Scion, stuff like the Cassante, where your role in the team is very, very different, and a lot of that carry focus, like you were saying, has been shifted down towards the bottom side. And that pairs up with a Verdant where they have got this strong carry top laner, but in the bot lane as well, Kevo and Cly, they love to be on these more hyper carry focused duos, something like a Sivir or a Zeri for Kevo in that AD carry position, which if you give it time, is going to take over a game.
The Cassante is really interesting to me as well, because Cassante, honestly, people don't quite understand this. It's a champion that's fairly useless when played on behind. But normally what you end up seeing in Europe is that Cassantes are played weak side against another weak side champion. Though we have started to see some teams realize that if you put Cassante behind, he's functionally useless for the rest of the game. He doesn't have the kind of utility that allows these super safe weak side picks to function. And Nyla, gives Verdant an opportunity to play through that if Nord decide to play to Woolite Kasing. I actually think it would be better for Nord to play through WoW for this game. I think Woolite Kasing could be trusted to do weak side, and I think if you do that, WoW's not going to be super pressured by the duo of Nyla Taxa. Taxa, there was a time where we talked about him like we talk about Akabane, one of these dogmatic top to bot or bot to top ganking junglers. Interesting that the Maokai and the Ashe were banned out by Nord. That obviously means they're playing for an Elise pick, but the Elise immediately gets banned out by Verdant, and now Nord, well, I guess we know who. I guess we know who they were scrimming earlier. Who Unique was scrimming earlier on.
The crazy thing for me is that Kasing was playing pro back when Annie was last meta. Right, this guy, his career has spanned the entire length of this champion, really falling out down to the wayside to it coming back into the game. But we are going to have to get through this champion slate thick as fast as Verdant have already locked in their mid-jungle duo with the Vi and the Azir.
But they locked Azir into Annie. Annie's chilling here. Wait, what? So this could easily be a Fury Annie going into an Errol Azir, unless Verdant are going to take notes from both my stream and one LCK game and throw Nilla on the Azir. That would be glorious to see. I doubt we're going to see that. But yes, this is an interesting set of openings. I definitely think it favors Nord. The Ezreal indicates to me, if it were to be locked in, that Nord are looking for that counterpick on top side. Now, we've had a lot of criticisms of Lee Sin picks, but I think within the context of how Nord like to play, it's fine having a perpetually ganking jungler like Lee Sin, given that you know all three of your lanes have good carry potential right now, including WoW, depending on what they end up giving to him. Varus, really strong pick on the bot lane. Interested to see where Verdant go with here, because you don't really have a good lane into Annie mid so far, and Annie would pair up really well with Varus if she were to go mid lane. Obviously, you can pair up really well in support.
Yeah,
Zaya's being locked in, kind of disengagey here. And was the classic counter into Varus way back in like 2017, if you remember that Varus, Xayah, Tristana trifecta, where the Tristana's all-in was getting countered by the Varus, but the Xayah was countering the Varus, and then vice versa towards the Tristana, right? So interesting set of picks. They're banning. They assume it's Annie in support. So Verdant just completely assume it's Annie in support. Fury is a player that has brought out the Lissandra in previous seasons. He can do these kinds of picks, but I think it's just going to be Annie mid lane. Maybe I'm wrong though, right? Because if Azir's up, you have other possible counter picks into it. Yeah, if you want to talk about artillery mages, Fury used to be a huge Ziggs player, right? He can do Xerath. He can do these kinds of artillery mages that go really well with the poke that you have from Varus that turns it into a siege composition.
Yeah, and you end up in this sort of outrange stage. People like to think about Azir as a long-range champion, but he more safely operates within mid-range, and Xayah obviously is one of the lower-range AD carries, so if you can just outrange, then there's not very much you can do. That was the basis of that counterpick back in 2017. If the Xayah's on 40% HP from getting hit by a couple of piercing arrows, then great, she can ult and still die.
The Nord bans, though, I like the Rakan ban. The Jax ban indicates that maybe they think Verdant might wise up to the Annie pick, but you'd expect Verdant to go counterpick bot lane right now with their assumptions and last pick for Nyla, which does put Nord in a vulnerable position, but it's the other way around. They've realized the Annie could be flex, they're going with a weak side top, and now they're going to see if they can get a full counterpick on bot lane and play through that.
Does appear to be the angle. I mean, Xayah does have a fair bit of CC in her kit if you're able to land it in the early stages, and that can set up for other plays, but Nord will be forced to pick up their solo laners here. It is going to be Akali, actually, for Fury into the Azir.
Yep, classic counter picking towards the Azir. Not an artillery mage, but does work. You have R for R, E for E, and R2 then for his flash, so you can burn summoners really easy on the Azir, and you basically have permanent sticking potential to him. He doesn't have the escape that he has against other assassins that have less dash-related cooldowns. Plus, you're going to have Hextech Proto Belt on top of all of that, so even if he has the flash, boom, have fun, mate. The gangplank in towards the Gnar. We haven't seen that for a long time. Classic skill matchup where the Gnar could potentially get a lot of priority left alone, but the GP indicates that you're going to play really hard around bot side this game and use the GP to play tempo around the map. In swap scenarios in the mid game, GP ultimate becomes a big deal, and if left alone, he just deletes turrets. So classic by them. All that for a last pick Nautilus, really. So much comes down to level 1 for Verdant. I think this game is squarely in Nord's hands, to be honest, but I could be wrong, because there's a lot of DPS coming out from the Azir, from the Xayah. Just their laning phases are going to be quite difficult getting into the later stages of the game. Nyla, oddly enough, despite going blind here, does seem to be the point that they would wish to play around. Playing around an R can be done, and it can be done well, but then you're going to be trying to dive a gangplank and accelerating against the gangplank, so Nord have that fixed as well. Difficult game for Verdant, to say the least.
And it feels like the composition that has emerged for Nord is really a a statement on their skill of players, because I'm not looking at, well, we've got a couple of lanes that can carry here, someone's going to stay weak side and they're not going to be relevant as we go later on. Like you were saying, whilst this is a composition that plays heavily towards the bot side, you can't leave that GP, you can't ignore that GP, because he will turn up to a team fight 15, 20, 25 minutes in and do progressively more damage, start one-shotting people with those barrel combos.
Yeah, 100%. And in all of the swap scenarios, I mean, you have GP ult to clear waves, you have GP auto attacks to clear turrets. You have a lot of scenarios where it's difficult now to move away from them, and if Nord get early game advantages, that is what Verdant are going to try to do. So it's a very difficult thing to break. The advantage you have is that you have early lane priority into the Akali on midsection. Maybe you can translate that into dives on bot, maybe into dives on top, as difficult as they would be, but you get some kind of numbers advantage in river. Maybe you just invade jungle and try to get Akabane on rotation, but that gives them something to play through in early stages. And if they do well enough with that, maybe Akali never even gets lethal opportunities on the Azir.
Well, and then when you consider the Akali in the context of what she's going up against, Vi and Nautilus both have lock-on ultimate CC. And so if you are able to get in range of Fury, you do have ways of locking him down and preventing this Akali from doing Akali things. But then the issue becomes there's a load of other champions on the side of Nord that are going to be contributing that damage as well.
Yeah, 100%. But there's like so much DPS and burst coming out from the side of Nord. We've had some compositions today where we only have DPS and not burst, but Nord, they have so much follow-up in every kind of regard. Akali, Annie, GP all have burst. Even Varus has elements of burst, particularly with the lethality builds, and Varus gives a lot of DPS for their team. Lee Sin, even, if scaling properly, just absolutely one-shots. It does look like a full 5-stack on top. That would be really nice for Nilla if they're able to do something. The Nautilus being here as well is very interesting. A map split for top side, that would be curious to do. But
we
yeah,
have already
like
seen one lane swap today, but yeah, it's not going to happen. Verdant not really finding anything with their level ones. No deep vision either. They've not been able to spot out Akaban, and whilst you can assume that Lee Sin is going to be pathing towards the top side, you don't know that. Bot side.
I just find it funny that WoW is the only guy that doesn't have a camera in his room, right?
Oh, yeah, wait, we got cams on everybody. Yo!
But not
Sheesh.
WoW.
But not WoW.
The man everyone's here to see. Let's be real. All right? Like, I'm sorry, Casino, like, it's not 2016 anymore, all right?
E-Roll doesn't have cam. E-Roll doesn't have cam either. That's unfortunate. I like that the Tax is there, like in his Tax is there in his jersey, and well, I was kind of just like chilling, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's an old man with experience, you know? He knows what to expect.
Well, Kasing's got like the hoodie on with the headphones over the hood.
Oh, he does?
I don't like that.
Does that work?
I feel like that's just... Could you hear stuff as well in those situations?
I have like noise-cancelling headphones. I feel like it would be pointless for me to... Although it works with like a tone, no? So maybe it works anyway.
Maybe it's just like cold in his room or something.
Maybe. Is that an Angry Birds poster? That's framed? A framed Angry Birds poster.
That's goated.
You know those pics of girls being like, guys will literally live like this and think it's fine? Woolite has that room. That's literally white walls, white bed. That's it.
So funny story, right?
Yeah.
About a year, I want to say like a year and a half ago, I got a green screen for my room. It's not up right now because it is an absolute pain to put up and take down and all that. But I worked out, I realized when I got it delivered that it doesn't actually fit in my room without me dismantling my bed and just having a mattress on the floor. So for the past 18 months, I've just sort of been living that life, sleeping on a mattress. So like, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yikes. Doesn't that mess up with your back though, right? Like if you don't have the springs going on.
Solo queue messes with my back like every day, the amount that I have to carry people. So like it's not really that much of an issue, you know?
True. I thought you played TFT.
I do the solo queue in TFT, like ranked, you know?
True. But you're not carrying anyone.
I'm carrying myself while I'm trying to. Anyway.
What rank are you now? I support your TFT journey.
Please don't make me say it.
I support your TFT journey.
Please don't make me say my rank.
Dude, Taxer's getting the dopamine right there from the armor break on the.
True.
I'm telling you, it's insane levels of dopamine when you finally get the armor break on Vi. You know, just like the click. You know, look how tell me that's not from the photos.
Well, we might have the opportunity to ask him about it. Anyway, we do have League of Legends on our screen.
Look at Cly's room. Look, Cly is in a luxurious hotel.
That is really nice.
Yes.
That is really nice.
My God. I'm liking the moustache that's coming through from him, actually. It suits him. Looks good.
Looks good. Looks good. We're kind of fortunate that nothing's really happened in the early game right now.
It's a Nord game. I mean, Errol is... Oh!
He's fine.
Okay. Well, we didn't see the steps up to it, you know? We just go bot and it's like that. Oh, there you go.
Kevo pulls the feathers back first blood! Around about 5 minutes in, the game comes to life.
That's what happens when you're streaming from the Marriott Hotel versus streaming from a meme photo, you know? Oh my... But Woolite's hydrated, so who's really winning at the end of the day?
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, he did just get killed, so...
You have to do those kinds of aggressive hooks in these range matchups, especially when you're on that kind of a wave. If he doesn't do that, then it's really easy for Woolite and Kasing to be able to turn overall. We had Kasing in a position where he'd burned a lot of mana. Cly recognized it. Really aggressive, gets rewarded.
Ooh, Tax are actually going in versus Akaban and Fury. Not as much energy on that Akali as the Nord mid laner would have liked. Cly was also moving over to back up that play from Taxa. So, Verdant coming out with a few early advantages, and Erol able to TP back into mid lane with that lost chapter.
Yep, I mean, Errol definitely not getting the early priority he would want against the Akali, and the Akali actually able to translate it into early invades. But the early invades are somewhat questionable, right? Like, even with a degree of success, Vi isn't going to be put that far behind him. She will still be more useful later on. But there's an issue with the Nord composition we didn't really talk about. Lee doesn't have set up top, and he doesn't have set up mid. Right? All he can really do is just catch Taxa on rotation. Taxa being like an older version of Akabane that we used to talk about them the exact same way, honest to God. But outside of controlling him, the only lane he can really play on is bot lane if bot lane has flash. And they haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. And that's going to run out on 6, right? When suddenly Xayah has a lot of counterplay. So difficult to find uses for the Lee early.
Ooh, double stun from Kasing off the engage out of Cly. Taxa making his way down to the bot lane. Not
Lee
quite
too.
level 6 yet, but might spot out Woolite as he is moving over. Not going to see him on the sweeper. Nearly just got a solo kill onto WoW. And Verdant could look for even more. Erol is coming from base. He's not going to be able to join this play if his team goes for it. But Fury... Level 7 on the Akali, fishing for a little bit of damage. Nord will be able to get the Drake, and they are rotating towards this bot lane. No ultimates for Woolite, no level 6 for Kasing either, so can't really find definite engage. But they are able to pick up that Drake and get away.
Akabane is doing so much without a single working light in his house. Or lane to play for as well.
Are the lights in his house like a metaphor for the setup CC in his lanes or something?
True.
Hold on, Erol. Flashing back onto Fury, you do need to be very, very careful on the Azir. Post 6, that Akali can kind of one-shot.
Especially with the build going on here, right? Like, look at Akali's Sork shoes, right? No, not looking for priority on the wave, looking for one-shot potential on towards the Azir. Really aggressive first item, and that's honestly going to give you a degree of wave control. But you do have Nautilus entering river first, with the rest of his team here. Cly pretty good at these rotations towards early Herald. Question is, which side's actually going to win out? If Kasing's not able to get a really strong engage, and she isn't 6 yet, then Verdant actually in a good
position.
position.
Hold on. We're getting a strong engage from Verdant here, and they're able to get it down onto Akaban, who is removed from the game. Verdant with their 3rd kill in these early stages. Taxa is going to be able to get a Herald as well. Norda falling behind a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that fight would definitely favor them, and part of that is because of Clyde's rotation and entering in river first instead of opening up in lane. This is a dichotomy you wanted to talk about in one of the earlier games today, but here you actually see the argument play out in force. By entering river and then moving towards lane, you actually unlock your lane at the same time, and as a result, have priority on any skirmish that happens. Gnar was able to play however he wanted top as well, which means if that fight extended, it would still favor Verdant. Very nice macro plays coming out from them. It's solid fundamentals, nothing special, but good by them.
Hero, maybe a victim of a gank. Kasing flashing for the stun, but not before the shifting stands can take E-roll to safety.
Yeah, I mean, he was under threat there from the Akali, but looking at the wave, he was completely fine to just move away. Yes, Annie could maybe go for the stun, but it wouldn't be an ult stun anyway, so there would always be a delay on its connection. The ultimate from Annie is so huge because, like, really old Season 4 Veigar cage, it's come out instantaneously without that channel time that every other ability she has does.
Don't remind me of old Veigar cage.
No one played it back then, and yet it was on an instant cage.
I feel like they nerfed it, so it was what, the 0.25 second, like, cast down time or whatever, and like everyone was like, hold on, this pick is actually kind of busted. Akaban is around the bottom lane, but can't find a gank.
Nope, and the wave is good for Cly and Kivo to just do whatever they want, but Annie is getting tribush as Varus has to move up.
Getting angry. This top lane is not going great for WoW. He's going to scale. He's on a GP. He'll be fine in the later stages.
Nice.
This is a pick onto Kasing. He can't get Tibbers out in time, and Kevo claims the kill. Fury with the shuriken flip down onto Tax, who pulls him onto tower, and will be taken down in the end, but feeds another kill over. Verdant are straight up playing better than Nord right now.
Having flashbacks to the first game of the day with the argument you had about macro, but was actually executed properly by Verdant, and the support doing so much. Clyde's map movements and Clyde's aggression on the Nautilus have been on point and netted so much for Verdant overall. This, Fury does get a trade kill back, but he's dead. Azir is pressuring mid lane off of that. Azir gets to catch up a lot off of the CS that he was losing from pressure beforehand. Sure, Annie is on the map first, but Nautilus on this reset will come out with Kevo, and anything you get from this is going to be taken back before the Drake spawns. You didn't have many early windows for Nord because of their setup, and the big question we had coming in was, can Nord show us that they can play early game and it's not just going to be about scaling into these mid-game fights? And honestly, against Verdant, they've shown us there's still vulnerabilities there.
And a lot of the pre-game for this was about how important this matchup is for Verdant in the context of their position in the standings. And whilst Nord have already locked playoffs for themselves, they really want to be in that top two. And if they lose this game for a second time, this split dropping down to 9-2, then seems like Ruddy will be spelling blood in the water, especially with them playing tomorrow.
It's just Marriott Hotel diff with Cly here. Really good to use the Herald to get priority for the Drake. This is a move you see LEC teams doing all the time. Heralds kind of get used opportunistically in ERLs, but Verdant intelligently use it to guarantee they get this. And you can see, even though Annie was on the map first, the control didn't mean anything because Verdant would be first on the grouping, and that's what ends up mattering.
And with that Herald summoned in the mid lane as well, that tower is pretty damn low. WoW is going to be able to collect a couple of plates for themselves, and this is the one thing I'm really worried about for Verdant. Whilst this GP has fallen down, he's not really been pressured much outside of that. Has already got that Essence Reaver, and if you don't deal with him soon, then he can become something that is difficult to deal with. Woolite is being flash engaged onto, and one shot by Kevo. Cly once again making the plays.
most reactive Woolite moment right there, but Cly, again, with the aggression on Nautilus, immediately getting in on him, immediately translating to kill for Kevo, immediately translating into plates, and Kasing's here with the charge, but no follow-up possible, and he does not have the damage in these items to threaten Kevo at all. Sure, you can poke him, but Kevo's just going to recall after whatever he's doing here, so he doesn't care. He's happy to tank some HP to get those minions. He's going to recall, be back on the map on full HP. And top lane, you mentioned the Gangplank being left alone for a couple of seconds immediately gets a lot of plates. Yeah, that's going to be the issue with having Gangplank for Nord for the rest of the game, is that progressively, every time that you're feeling a bit lazy about your top lane, he's going to get more and more. If you feel lazy about a map setup on side lanes, he's going to get more and more, and if you try to trade on the other side of the map, he even has access to do something about it then with his ultimate. So even though WoW got knocked down, he will get up again, and you can never really keep this Gangplank down.
True words have never been spoken. Taxa and Cly in the mid lane for Verdant as they are forcing Fury away from this tower, and they will be able to get first brick. This isn't just a couple of good plays in the early game anymore for Verdant. This is a 3,500 gold lead 15 minutes in. Not a done deal by any means, but certainly a position of power for our red side team that not many people would have expected.
I mean, this is by far the best early game we've seen from Verdant all split, and it's come out when they need it to the most. When these teams are backed up against a corner, they have a decision about how they want to be remembered going out. If they want their season to continue in the next split, they have to start putting up or shutting up, and Verdant have absolutely decided to put everything they have into this, particularly Cly. Like, Cly is a veteran player, he's been around, and he's being a point of criticism a lot of teams he's in, but he doesn't want to be that with Verdant. He's made the plays, he's got his bot lane ahead, and he also won the early Herald contest with his play. Very impactful player so far, streaming from the Marriott Hotel.
Live on location, and it's been 5-star stuff from the Verdant support so far. Picked up another Herald for themselves, so these outer towers may not be long for Nord, and they need to hit back, right? You can't just let Verdant keep getting all these advantages. What do Nord need to do to retake control of this game?
The thing is, it's so reliant on Annie because he is the only one that can get these 5-man engages, but you can see the combo that works, right? The Gangplank slow of the ultimate into the Annie engage, into the follow-up, right? The other thing that they could do is try to find flanking opportunities. And whereas we're praising how Verdant have been playing the game, look at vision coverage on the map. That bot side, deep wards are in towards Verdant's area. That top side, deep wards are in towards Verdant's half of the map, right? They aren't actually doing a good job of controlling all of these angles, and the shallow vision doesn't even exist on the top side there. So there are angles for the Akali and for the Lee Sin to get in.
Yep.
You could see a huge Akabane kick. You could see Fury removing Azir from the map or removing Kevo's ultimate from the fight, both of which would be huge things.
I mean, maybe even a GP barrel from Fog of War to one-shot a squishy carry. Now, that's a play that a lot of EU fans won't be happy to hear about. We've seen that knock down a few of our teams at the world stage in the past, but Verdant will need to get back on top of that vision if they want to close out this game. Taxa summoning the Rift Herald in the bot lane. This is going to be another turret going in their favor. In 30 seconds' time, we've got a further third Drake spawning. Verdant have already got themselves priority in the river, but Nord are overloading mid lane.
I mean, the Herald's not being used the way it was before. Yes, you get priority, but there's going to be 2 more rotations before the Drake actually spawns. You see on this first rotation, the vision's being traded back. So you would like the Herald now to guarantee the vision for the next Drake. They're not going to get it. They're just going to trade for this top side. You do have tempo on the map. You're trading this for tempo on the map. But a burst-heavy team like Nord, they're going to be happy to get this Chemtech Drake. I'm going to be real, when I was saying that, I was looking at the top left and saw Infernal, and I thought that was an Infernal Drake. This is actually not as bad.
No,
so it's
Chemtech
kind
Drake
of worth the trade. Yeah.
It's a little bit underpowered. And I've even seen some discussion on Twitter of people going, actually, hold on, if it is a Cloud Soul, if it is a Chemtech, so you kind of want the enemy team to take it, and then you can flip Elder against them.
In which case, the Herald on bot lane was played for resets, and you can see all members, well, 4 members, the Azir's kind of chilling, coming out at the same. He has teleport. He's not really chilling. All coming out at the same time and being able to reset the map earlier than Nord are able to do so. And they're doing this with the waves firmly in their favor. Nars ahead of Akali on the bot side versus the top side of the map. Vi is going to make sure Akali can't do any more, but Nar is going to be able to transfer into mid and towards top side for the bigger play, which is going to be that Baron coming up in a minute's time. And that's when you could see Nord be in a position to try to find the flank, find the 5-man from the Annie, find something to get that fight that can win them the game. That's when the veterancy of the players on Nord matter. Right now, they're going to be more confident in those situations to pull the trigger, because the laning phase ain't being it. The early game ain't being it. But maybe in this, you're going to see the value of having such a team with the experience that Nord's players have.
I mean, it reminds me of Riddle's game that they almost lost versus Domino, right? You have one team that gets out to a pretty substantial advantage, and then the team from the top of the table, they knuckle down, they go, we've been here before, we understand how these situations work, and they're able to find the play in the end. We are just cresting the 20-minute mark now. Baron is on the table. Verdant. This game is so important for them in the context of keeping their playoff spot, that last playoff spot in NLC. And with a performance like this versus Nords, well, they could maybe even hope for a bit of a deeper run in the knockout stages.
The Chemtech is so weak that the client's just not even acknowledging its existence. I look at the top,
no, guys, I promise it's Infernal. I promise it's Infernal. You really want to take this one, guys.
Don't trade it for tempo, all right? You're not G2 2019, okay? Just go for it, please. Just please, guys. It's good.
Ooh, a little bit too far forward, potentially. Gets the hook back down onto Fury. Open up with the depth from below. Taxa does get ulted, but he's pretty damn tanky on this fight, actually, but not tanky enough. Fury slays Clyde. Gets the shuriken down onto Kevo. But Ops against going forward. That's a good pick for Nord, but they need a couple more of those to get back into this game.
Every ultimate went out for Clyde there, but Clyde's the big playmaker. Taxa also has to reset off that. They at least deny the Baron for another rotation. A losing fight, there's a guaranteed Baron for Verdant, but now the opportunities to just rush it have dramatically decreased. You saw the combo there though, right? You saw the Annie engage, you saw how GP keeps them all in on top of that engage, and you saw how effective it can be. Just they need more incremental picks like that before they have the damage to fully go on it, because a long fight, they ain't winning. They need to burst them down early on. And the Akali, the GP, the Annie, they will have the potential to do that, just not right now. But still, it's good for Nord to be delaying the game. We know how much of an impact Gangplank can have. We know how much of an impact Annie can have. We know how well an Akali has been seemingly forever. This champion just never gets addressed and is always existing and competitive. So there's opportunities and there's a way forward. And Verdant, they've played really, really well, but they're not the experienced ones once it gets to this stage.
And you really want to be going forward as Verdant with those tools of the Vi, of the Nautilus. If Nord are the ones making plays onto you from Fog of War with that Annie Tibbers, then it's not going to go well. And what you're alluding to, right, the pick is going to stay the same throughout the game. It's just what happens after that pick is going to change. It's not going to be Taxa surviving for a little bit longer than he should and actually able to escape the fight. He's going to get one shot by a GP barrel. Fury is going to be able to kill 4 people in that scenario, and it's not just going to be one going down. So Verdant need to clean up their play a little bit around those choke points. We do have another Drake spawning in 25 seconds. Verdant, they don't seem particularly concerned with it at the moment as Nille getting solo killed in the top lane by Fury. That is bad. If you can't lane versus this Akali, then what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, that was Nilla in mini-Gnar form with Trinity Black Cleaver, and he ain't surviving against Akali. Akali getting the reset up there means that it's much more difficult for Verdant to find a favourable trade. We don't think that this Kentex Soul is worth that much. They can't get a reset on bot lane, and they don't have pressure top lane to prevent Nord from just grouping here. They're gonna have to give this up. If they go for the fight, Nord now have numbers.
Nilly is going to be respawning in 5 and has TP. We're actually going to see an engage come through for attacks. They find Kasing and they take him out. It's a trade. Jungler for support, and somehow Kevo's ended up in the middle of Nord. That's not where you want to be, buddy. And in the mid-game fight, Nord will find it. Verdant are fumbling the bag, but Nilly is turning it around. Goes Meganar just in time with the HP. Elo moves them into the ultimate, but it's not enough.
No.
Akabane will not drop down. He will secure the ace, and Nord wrest back control of the game.
I mean, you could see the impatience there from Verdant. They could have just tried to reset the map and get a better scenario before, but they engage on a 4v5, thinking they could maybe make it possible. Fury gets in there. You could see the pressure really get to Kevo, trying to end the fight as fast as humanly possible. And Nyla, he has TP, but he's mini-Gnar. He's not coming in with any Fury stacks. He's still able to make it work. And you see the potential that Verdant have if they just wait for the favorable 5v5. But that's not it here. Errol, he does have the opportunity, the option to stop watching and try to elongate it, but it's already over. He knows it, so he accepts the L, and that becomes a 2 for 5 for Nord from the back footing off of poor decision-making, pressured decision-making by Verdant in a situation where they needn't feel pressured at all.
Just need to calm down a little bit. I mean, even now, they still have the gold advantage, marginal though it is, but
mate, it's
in these
400.
It's not really meaning anything. And on the other side, you've got this Akali to deal with from Fury. He is nearly level 16. He's already got a death cap. And if your name is Kevo, if your name is Erol, if your name is Nilla, and you're in that mini-Gnar form, there is nothing that you can do against that champion.
That cloth armor on Gnar is their gold advantage right now.
Doesn't seem that meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, if he's against Akali, it suddenly doesn't matter at all. Like, honestly, now the game starts to severely favor Nord. Imagine you're closing against the kind of GP you're going to be closing against if Verdant are able to bring it back into their favor, right? You're already talking about a stage of the game where Nord are happy to let you siege into their tier 3 turrets and just go for the counter engage. It looks like Verdant, they're aware of the timer and they now feel pressure to do the Baron.
Yeah,
and he's not here.
Kasing is running from base. Wow, he's going to use that cannon barrage, and that's actually enough to force Verdant away. Even in an outnumbered situation, Nord force back their opponents, and now they can turn to the Baron.
Yeah, well, they don't exactly have the tools to absolutely delete it, though Woolite is going for the on-hit Varus, which is one of those champions that's being able to do it before. Neither side can really do the Baron fast enough, but you can see the utility of WoW's Gangplank there, right? That ultimate in a cross-map scenario, that will dissuade you from sieging turrets, that will dissuade you from doing Baron. It prevents you from accelerating the game in your favor, and sure, you've burned the cooldown now, but it's already a third of the way up.
Yeah, and Fury able to get even more gold for himself, taking down that top lane tower. Now, level 16 on the Akali, and Verdant are going to be kicking themselves. This game was in their hands. They had full control, but all it takes is one bad fight and you're going to fall down. Akabane with an insect kick through onto Cly. The Nautilus is going to be able to survive and get the ultimate away just in time, but WoW will slay him. WoW dies to Erol though, and Kevo is 1v1ing with Woolite, and you are not going to win that. 2-for-1 play favouring Nord as Kasing is being jumped to by Taxa, but here comes Fury. The 5-point strikes do a ridiculous amount of damage as he is hunting for Erol. Will get chased down by Nilla in the mini-Gnar form, but the top laner for Verdant needs to be very, very careful. The Baron has now been started up.
Still the Elongator contests. Nilla's feeling it, and you have to flip it here. It's 100% a lost game if you just let Nord get this Baron.
Ooh, what HP is it on? What HP is it going low? Fury going into all of them. Erol with a huge shuffle on multiple members into the pits. What a play from the Verdant mid laner. A triple kill, and he may have saved their playoff hopes.
Azir can do this. WoW is up, and WoW does have the ultimate. If he times it nicely onto Errol, he could maybe get rid of their huge damage dealer. Errol's able to just delete this. Errol's aware of it and goes over on towards the other side. He doesn't want to let the GP get the burst on towards him. GP's going to come in, but he won't find the big damage dealer.
Oh, he's been hooked. He's been found. He's been isolated. Verdant, they've dropped the aggro onto the Baron. That could be crucial. Respawns are going to come through in just a moment for Nord. Fury has TP when he's up in 10, but it is not going to matter. After throwing away an early game lead, Verdant find themselves a Baron and find themselves in the driver's seat once more.
If we ignore the fact that they were fisting their way towards Nord's Nexus like 6 minutes in, this is a typical Verdant game.
Well, this was anything but a typical play for Ero. When he needed to make something exceptional happen, he does just that.
And we were discussing on the fight where Nord started turning the game in their favor, how Ero decided not to utilize the stopwatch, knowing it would be useless. But that was one of the best stopwatch uses we've seen in the NLC so far this split. A game-winning one, absorbing cooldowns, guaranteeing that his Gnar would be able to start taking aggro from his opponents and allow him to finish off the rest.
Oh my word. Early on in the split, Verdant made a habit of winning games that maybe they shouldn't have with plays around the Baron. It wasn't Taxa this time, it was his mid laner E-roll, resting them back into this game, which honestly, it felt like it had fallen away from them. They're still going to have to deal with that late game GP threat. They're still going to have to deal with this Akali who can one-shot absolutely everybody, but they've got points of power now. Ero, level 16, 3 items for himself. Kevo getting stronger with every single CS. This game is anyone's for the taking.
Yep. Let's see, though, right? The biggest point of Verdant's strength beforehand was Cly, but Cly and Kevo getting caught out. Kevo, I don't think in that mid lane one-on-one with Woolite, remembered to toggle target champions only on. Those have been the ones getting caught before, and savior plays by Errol and Nilla got in. But if Cly gets back on the form that he had early on in the game, and Kevo tempers a little bit, it could be a fairly clean route for Verdant to try to close this game. We've seen individually how they have to play to win. If they can all get it together for a couple of minutes, they could have a really impactful Baron here and set up a really decent endgame.
And what a statement, right? We were thinking that maybe this team ends up dropping out of playoffs. Maybe Veneer are stronger than them at this point in time. Well, they are saying emphatically not. We can go toe-to-toe with the very, very best in the league. They've only got around about 30 seconds left on this Baron. They haven't been able to get too much in terms of structures, and I think that just illustrates the strength that Nord have for themselves right now. Both these teams really fighting up against each other as equals.
Yep, but it's difficult for them to break the gangplank on bot, and Fury is trying to do what he did before and find the pick onto Nyled. That's what really broke open the game. That team fight around the Drake for Nord, that got them so far through where we thought the game is over, Nord are probably just going to win this like they win all their other games, came off the back of a Fury pick. He's trying to find it, and he's slowly slinking into his chair until he's 180 degrees piss chilling, but he wasn't able to find it on that rotation. The Baron is down now, though, so it's going to become easier.
Oh, Taxa dodging away, but no! The Chains of Corruption hit onto Kevo. He's been tagged by Lee Sin-Q. Akabane thinking about it, not going to go. Verdant, they get the tower, they don't get the tower, they disengage from the bot lane play. That was mighty close.
A mid tower, though, did go down for them, but that's all they got from the Baron. They're nervous, but maybe it's better to temper than it is to push through in risky scenarios. Fury was there to capitalize if you pushed a bit too hard. He's the burst that Nord are looking to open up the window to get back into the game. Kasing, we're still looking for that big play, but he isn't on the items yet to be able to do it. Not quite sure what it is he's building right now. Is there anything that builds out a Giant's Belt and Stopwatch?
I think there are a lot of items that build out a Giant's Belt.
Well, yes, but like together.
With the stop. Not too sure. That's a conundrum that maybe we'll be able to solve a little bit later. I want you to look at the objective timers in the top corners of your screen, though. Chemtech Soul spawning in a minute for Nord. It's not an Infernal as much as Summoner's Rift would like you to believe it. And then a Baron in a minute and a half. Verdant have taken more towers than Nord, so theoretically they should have the position, they should have the advantage around these objectives, but as we highlighted in the early game, Nord may have the advantage in terms of their ability to place vision effectively and spot out Verdant.
In the next fight, though, GP's damage is going to do a massive leap. He has his armor penetration finish. He has his Navori's quick blade finish. He has the best kind of build you're looking for here.
Taxa! He finds Kasing, the hook flashed away from, and all the damage is going down onto that Vi. Fury is going to dash away. Clyde trying to disengage, gets kicked back into his team by Akaban. Nearly building up the rage, about to go mega. A load of ultimates pulled in that fight, but no one going down.
Clyde flashing over Akaban's attempt to flash kick him. Really nicely done there. Both of them, they're able to move away from Nord's potential windows to engage.
What are you doing, buddy? That's not where you could stand. A shutdown for Taxa, and removing an AD carry at this stage is absolutely massive. Kasing instead as well. The bot lane of Nord has been taken off the map. How much can Verdant get from this?
Okay, they've denied the soul. They're going to get the Drake now, and in 16 seconds, the Baron comes up. Get the Drake, reset, get full control of Baron, force them to come into you after you've spent your money. You know you can win fights. Nilla with a brilliant engage. Cly with a brilliant engage. You know you have a composition that can do this. What is it that Nord can do? They can't start it without the Varus, to be honest. And if they try to hold here... All right, Verdant aren't recalling. They're not going to spend the gold that they got from the previous engagement. They're not going to pick Fury either. They just have to rush this as fast as they can, because if they're able to be interrupted, will like a Sing, they'd get here. It's not even going to be close. They're going to get both objectives reset and be in a really good position to try to close the game. This could be the upset we were hoping for at the start of the day. All other games have gone somewhat as planned, even with interesting stuff. But in terms of the events on the game, this is the one no one expected, but could actually go that way.
Match of the day, and well and truly living up to that name right now. We are 35 minutes in, and very little separates both of these teams. We are going to be approaching max builds. Full items for a few of these players, for a few of these champions now. E-roll with that Medjai's in inventory, as strong on this Azir as he's going to be. And Verdant, with their man in their mid lane leading them, have a shot at taking down Nord.
They have a really strong likelihood of doing it. Top lane, you know, they're not going for it. They're playing a 2-lane setup to get this bot turret down. And they're going for all of the jungle vision to try to make sure Fury doesn't get the flank off they was going for before. WoW isn't actually set up to defend the bot tower. Vord have decided, we're going to play this at the tier 3s and we're going to force you to come into us. Now, the safe play for Verdant off of this would be to now play top shifts. So shift off of bot in towards mid, have Azir shift into top and shove this wave in, try to synchronize the wave play for the tower, or they could look to actually do this contest underneath the tower for Nord. But Nord, they have good tools to defend here. They have the Gangplank, they have the Varus, and they have a lot of potential engage. Looks like top's getting ignored, and Verdant are just going to extend this 2-lane setup between mid and bot.
Yeah, you really want to make sure that these waves are crashing at the same time, so you can have elements of pressure in both lanes, and it's not really happening at the moment, as another Baron wave is going to get escorted in. Those GP barrels are so impactful as well. He's going to be able to find a Chains of Corruption down onto Nelly, but the Tibbers misses. Taxa's going to go for an engage regardless, and this is a 3v5 for Verdant. They're going to be absolutely fine, though. Taxa pulls at the front. That cannon barrage is preventing Verdant from finding anything from this fight. Nilla hopping forward. Woolite in a Zhonya's. That could be risky. The hook will find him, and E-roll is dominating. This could be the final fight of the game, as it's still full HP on the Azir. The inhib tower is being focused down. The inhib will fall as well. Do Verdant go for it right here?
It was so risky of them to do the contest on the tier 3s. You have the Annie engage, you have the Varus engage, you have Akabane's potential, you have WoW against the Baron minions, and yet they were able to find it. They dodged the Annie ultimate, they dodged the Annie engage, they get the re-engage off of the Zhonya's from Cly. Errol is able to get in and get more kills despite not being able to do the flank that he intended to do, and 2 inhibs are now down. Is it clean? Not as clean as you'd like it to be, but is it looking like a game win for Verdant? Very, very likely. Or Nord are going to have one hell of a story to tell at the end of this game.
And if you're looking at players to watch, Woolite, the last couple of fights, that Zhonya's mistimed in the bottom lane gave Cly a hook. Overextending in the mid lane after that Drake gave Verdant a couple of picks, led to some more objectives. The experience on the side of Nord is not showing up right now. We've got WoW forced to teleport out of that bot lane as Verdant were converging, and honestly, it's not the team that just got promoted from Division 2 that looks like they're struggling, that looks like they're trying to find something. It's the super roster built to win the split. Verdant grouping in the mid lane. Got 25 seconds until that Chemtech Soul is on the board, and Nord are struggling to approach.
Yep, it is difficult though with this, because by playing so heavily for the Chemtech Soul, you are allowing Nord to play through the inhibitor lanes and essentially wasting a lot of time. Kasing misses again with the Tibbers. Huge engage potential for Nord has just gone. Woolite also burned his engage to follow up on the Kasing ult. Now Verdant, they feel a lot more comfortable doing this. A WoW barrel, an Akabane kick, these are what they're hoping for. Nilla's not letting Fury get the flank that we've been talking about all game, but he's going for it anyway.
He's going to jump back away. The cannon barrage is going to be used to push back Verdant.
Barrel's out.
So difficult to approach into the pit when that is down, but as it falls away, they will be emboldened. Wow! With a barrel chain, but only collects onto Cly. 500 damage crits are not what you need from the GP at this point. Akabane is still DPSing the Drake. Can Verdant get a steal? No! Chemtech Soul goes in favor of Nord, and they get the first kill of the fight. They get a second kill of the fight. They get the third kill of the fight. But look at the base. Erol and Nilla have TP'd in. They're trying to go for the end. Fury is the only one here that can stop them. He's got a shuriken on Nilla's head. The first Nexus Tower is going to fall down. WoW gets the reset coming through. Verdant's solo laners must run for the hills, and the game is not over yet.
Verdant had to be together on that Drake, but instead they go for some 9-head highlight reel play that would get really lots of upvotes on Reddit. But now Nord actually have a really good window, because that Baron's coming up, jungle. You're on cooldown timers, and they have the Soul. Verdant, they're on top of Vision, but they're looking to potentially end the game anyway. They don't see it? They see it. They're recalling. They have WoW recalling now. It's 2v2.
Oh, this is risky. Fury's going to get pushed back. Erol goes into that stopwatch. Nilla just needs to do a little bit more damage. But he can't do it to the Akali. Fury gets a shutdown. Erol falls for the first time in ages. And whilst that was happening, Nord are able to pick up the Baron in a game that has gone in so many directions. New pages being written before our eyes. The story of this match is not over yet.
Nilla hit Tibbers instead of the Fury. Oh, man. That's like the second time where Target Champions Only would have really benefited the players on Verdant in a fight. But still, I mean, the decision to try to end that way around the Soul, I think if you just played that 5-on-5 together, that would have been a pretty simple way. But now it's Baron and Soul available for Nord. Hopefully this Drake is as overrated as you were describing to me earlier. It is still an exposed base. One inhibitor down, and it's free reign on that Nexus turret. Are there teleports up on Errol and Nilla? Not yet. Are there wards in? Not yet. And, you know, they've done a very good job on the side of Nord from clearing all of that vision in. Inhibitors will be up soon. Here's that fight again. You have a Rollout on the side. Instead of playing as 5 here, Nilla's just rolling away, allowing his teammates to just die. Kevo going in, playing as he does. But immediate channeled recalls. They should know that in that scenario, it's very unlikely for them to get it, but they were actually in a decent position to win the fight with the lack of engage available from Verdant.
Akaban needs to be careful. The feathers pull back. not resulting in a snare. Verdant, despite the advantages that Nord do have, still pushing forward into the enemy jungle. I have to feel like that Elder Drake spawning in 3 minutes is really going to be where this game is decided, because as hard fought as Nord have made the defense of this base, it feels like they need something a little bit extra if they're going to stop Verdant from taking them down.
I mean, they have the soul. They have the soul, and they have Verdant's decision-making and trying to end the game. You can see how much pressure Verdant feel like they're up against. You know, they really feel they have to do something extra to end the game, when honestly, just clean play could have ended the game for them earlier. But you know, it makes this next few minutes very interesting. They have to weather the storm of Nord. They don't have a gangplank to do so. Azir clear doesn't really work here. Losing mid inhibitor is not going to be the worst thing on the planet, but they pretty much have to drop it.
And Nord have not got long left on that Baron. They're trying to get as much as they can for it though, rotating over towards the bot side. Chains of Corruption's connecting onto Client. They blow him up! There is nothing that the Nautilus could contribute to this fight, and Fury is going ham on the backline. A double kill for WoW! And Verdant, they pushed hard, they did their damnedest, but you cannot deny Nord. E-roll goes in for a hero play, but you will not be a hero today. The dab from Akaban on his player cam signalizes Nord taking down Verdant.
This is one of those games where it can be very, very tempting to torture yourself and just watch the final phases of the VOD over and over again. But if Verdant made any mistakes, it was round the original fights around River, around Drake, at around about 20 minutes. I can't exactly remember when they started losing control of the game. The stuff that forced them to have to make that insane outplay by Errol and Nilla around the Baron, the stuff before then is what they have to look at and not torture themselves about these decisions later on. You shouldn't be in that position in the first place. But the fact that they were in a position to close against Nord should be a point of pride for them. But this makes the split extremely difficult for them. Hopefully they can show us more stuff going later in. Nord, though, we've now seen the weaknesses, right? Like, there was a lot of stuff off there, particularly when it came to classic warlike positioning, and those Annie ultimates just weren't hitting. They weren't it, and they weren't really there. WoW on the gangplank getting solo by Nilla early on, we didn't really see exactly the circumstances there, but, you know, Fury looked like a really good spot for Nord. Oh, production! Thank you, actually.
So this isn't the 1v1, unfortunately, Veteran. Just a replay of some of these fights, but you're right. And to discuss a game like this, given the context that surrounded it, especially what was on the line for Verdant and how close they were to picking up this victory, it's honestly heartbreaking, but this is the thing that separates these teams at the top of the table from those that are gunning for that spot, the ability to close in these tense scenarios where one misplay, one overstep, one movement can really be the end of the entire game.
One Xayah ult into the middle of 4 people, but crucially before this point, Fury getting the solo kill on towards Nilla on the Gnar on top side, that's what precipitated that 4v5 situation with Gnar TPing late as mini Gnar, right? These kinds of things, Akabane's kick kill onto Clyde, that was really, really nice. But there were a lot of options already at this point for Verdant to come back into the game. The big MVP for me for Nord is going to be Fury, right? Like, Fury was the guy that was getting the picks that was allowing his team to get back into the game at crucial points. He was continuing to be a threat that prevented Verdant from being able to close out the game, and he defended the base when Nilla and Errol tried to go for that weird sneaky. Reminded me of the play Gambit tried to do against KT Roaster in IEM back in 2014, I believe. So hats off to Nord for sticking it out and getting in. But if you're Ruddy, if you're Riddle, I mean, you're feeling kind of confident right now about your chances to be able to take it to Nord in a best of series, right? Like, they're not invincible. They weren't able to show us that they can play out clean early games. And this was against Verdant, right? Like, they definitely could get similar kind of games to it, but also has to be said, Like, what options do you have with this lack of setup in your lanes? Nord could potentially just fix this in draft when it comes to their early phases. But you're still thinking about how they played those fights later.
Yeah, and I think as much praise as I think needs to be directed at the likes of Fury, I think Erol and Nille were playing their absolute hearts out this game.
Yeah.
Yes, there were a few micro misplays, but that shouldn't detract from the fact that these guys really gave it their all in this match. It felt like we had an entire best of five worth of League of Legends in terms of the amount of action that we had in that game, and that just makes it all the more devastating when you're not able to get the win, when it's your Nexus falling down at the end.
And Cly as well, right? Like, Cly got them all their advantages in early phases, both in lane and around the map. Like, if they'd won, he would have been the MVP, even despite those times where he got picked off. Those picks were so valuable because Cly was doing so much. And to get them back into the game, that was also Cly as well. So, really impactful by him. Nice highlight plays from Erol. Nice play by Nille. Honestly, like, they all have stuff that they can be proud of. But this was a Nord win, right? And you're seeing why they spent the big bucks on these players. You're seeing how much that kind of experience can help you when it gets to those closing out. Look at how Nord closed out the game versus Verdant's attempts to close out the game. Much more calm, much more relaxed, right? And much less open to the kind of failure conditions that Verdant's attempts had.
And I tell you what, given that this game was a Nord win, it was probably a Nord win in the fashion that gives us the most interesting look at the standings for the remaining matches, because you can start to look at the likes of Ruddy, who are going to be playing against Nord tomorrow. All of a sudden, that game looks pretty damn contestable. And then even someone like Verdant, they've still got to play Riddle and Ruddy. And whilst the mistakes that the teams make are different, Verdant have shown that they've got something to them, right? And they are not going to be taken down as easily.
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, this does shake up the rest of the standings, but let's not act like Ruddy didn't look slightly vulnerable in the first game today, or that Riddle, even with their swaps, weren't giving some openings, and obviously Riddle have already fallen to the current iteration of Ruddy. So it's difficult, actually, on the basis of the day to call who's going to win from that trifecta.
Well, we are now going to be jumping into the interviews. First up, we are going to have Nille from Verdant. And, mate, I don't really know what to say after a game like that. I just want to tell you that you guys played absolutely phenomenally, and I don't think we've really seen a team take it to Nord like that. So I just want to say, before we get this interview started, massive, massive props to yourselves.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean... I think we pretty much had the game in the bag and kind of just choked it. I mean, I think it was 100% our win here, but just couldn't close it out, so happens.
And obviously that is going to start for yourselves, but I kind of want to focus on what this performance means for you looking forward, because it is a tough schedule for you guys to close out this NLC split. But with a performance like that, that's got to be confidence boosting looking into those matches against Riddle and against Ruddy, even if you weren't able to take the dub today.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It gives us confidence, I think, like having a good showing here. And hopefully we'll do good in next games as well.
Yeah. Veteran?
You have been typically a very big strong side player. You were actually able to get some solo kills today, but the composition definitely wasn't built around your strong side. Do you think we're going to see more strong side Nille, or are you going to move more towards this kind of meta play for bot stuff that everybody has been doing? Like, do you think it's better to win on your terms right now, or are you going to move more to the traditional meta?
I mean, yeah, the meta is pretty heavy bot-centric right now, so I think, I'm not sure which is the best way to play, but I mean, I'm happy playing both styles, so we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. Nille, thank you very much for joining us for this little chat. Go and get some rest, get your head down, focus up for the next game, because I'm sure you guys are going to put up another great performance. Thank you for joining us this evening.
All right, thanks.
All right, and now we are going to be joined by the mid laner for Nord and the owner of a framed Angry Birds poster, Fury.
Yeah, what is up with?
Yeah, actually, first of all, what is up with the Angry Birds poster, mate?
It's not just that you have the Angry Birds poster, right? It's that you've gotten it framed.
I mean, okay, so little story. I think it's already 10 years ago. I got the poster because I liked it back then. I was young. Until this day, I've never removed it, and it kind of became a meme in interviews. So I just keep it like that. Like, why not?
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. But looking at today's game, I imagine it's fair to say that this was a bit more competitive than you guys would have liked, a bit more competitive than you would have expected. Was there anything that Verdant did today that really surprised you guys?
I mean, to be honest, I think we just played bad individually. Like, I think bot lane got solo bowler, top lane got solo bowler. I think we were not really in the game. And
Not mid lane though.
I was farming. I was ahead on CS and Akali against Azir, so I was happy in the game. I felt really confident, even though the game was really stressful. I don't think they prepared anything. I think we just played bad, and I don't know how we won, but we won.
That's brilliant. I don't know how we won. Possibly not the clearest game plan that you guys could have had. But I kind of want to get your thoughts on how the competition has been throughout the split, because obviously you guys now 10-1. You've had a couple of shaky moments, but for the majority of the time you have just been kind of crushing your games. Looking forward towards playoffs and potentially EMEA Masters, how do you guys rate yourselves?
Well, of course, it's hard to rate like the NLC region, right? It's always a big meme coming into the EMEA Masters. So, but I feel like NLC is always a dark horse in the tournament. Like, it doesn't matter if we go Riddle, but of course, I mean, we of course want to go, but I feel like the top 3, I still think they are. Can always surprise people because I feel like people don't do their homework good enough against the teams. So I think it's always that NLC has a good shot, and for like the NLC itself, I mean, tomorrow we play against Rudy, and last time we played against them, we kind of stomped them, and I just want to have like an EV game, not like this one that we get so far behind, but just a good game from both sides, because I think it's really important for us and for them as well that we just learn as much as we can and improve from there.
Yeah, that's interesting to say that. We've heard that from a couple of interviews today, that there's really this sort of spirit within the NLC of like, yeah, we want to win, obviously, but also making all the teams better is going to serve the region well. Veteran, I'm just wondering if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, today, like, you were talking about teams not doing their homework. Was today a prepared draft from you guys? Because you had a Lee Sin with absolutely no way to set him up outside of, like, Annie flash Wing or something, right? So, speaking of homework, what was prep like?
Maybe a bit of cookie draft, but yeah, I agree. Like, our draft was not optimal. Of course, it's not a good reason to blame draft with how we played, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really hard in game to play the game because we have no one to face tank the Nautilus or the Vi. It's kind of Annie's job or Lee Sin, but they don't want to do it. So we need to play team fights perfectly, and in some team fights we did. So yeah, I'm happy that we won.
I've never heard someone say I'm sad that we won. So
yeah. It feels like we're currently keeping you from a very interesting conversation with the coaching staff right now.
I think it's alright. I need to just get some in after this game, especially. It was a stressful game.
Well, we won't keep you very much longer then, Fury. You can go and chill out and rest up, ready for your matchup with Ruddy tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining us on the interview, mate.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Oh, what a lovely guy. Oh, I tell you what, Veteran, what a way to finish out the day. I feel like sometimes the match of the day, it doesn't really deliver, but that one delivered in spades.
Oh yeah, it did for sure. And like we were so close to seeing a huge upset. Honestly, I feel like how close they got to winning is still a huge upset and still shakes up the standings. Though obviously Verdant in the standings don't really get to capitalize on it. But what matters is that everybody except for Rudude got 100% prediction rate today, and Rudude just sucks straight up.
I tell you what, I realised actually that you hadn't mentioned the predictions, and I knew that you had to get it in just before we closed out the day. So thank you very much for that.
Everyone predicted the same thing, so there was no real like difference, you know.
And it feels very weird, like coming out of that game. It's like, oh, yeah, of course, Norb is going to win. Absolutely easy as you see there, Rudu. Yeah, absolute idiot. Predicting Unique to beat
moron, actually. He's
below
Middlecott. How bad do you have to be?
Bro, I was like 4 points behind at some point. I don't know what has happened. I just started copying like HitBrain's predictions, and for some reason that's worked out.
Then you're just gonna permanently be even with HitBrain for the rest of the. You're just denying HitBrain the ability to go above you.
Jake's a cool guy. I like him, but. With that, we're kind of wax lyricaling about nothing. We do have our MVP of the day. Make sure that you head over to twitter.com/NLCLOL to vote for that. We've got Lingui, Niter, Firerain, and Fury as your options. Veteran, if you had to pick an MVP for the day, who do you reckon?
Lingui, because he's doing it from a useless role, whereas the rest were doing it from an overpowered role. So.
Fair enough. So all the veteran fans go over and vote for Lingui on Twitter.
Do it.
But we are going to be having a little bit of a look at the games that we have got tomorrow. A lot of high-impact games here. That matchup between Nord and Ruddy going to be very, very interesting to watch. And I want to see if Verdant can go one better than they did today and actually manage to take down one of these teams at the top of the table.
Yeah, I mean... I'm really hoping Nate is able to show something, but I'm becoming such a big Veneer fan that I would love to see Veneer pull it off. Verdant are still in the game, right? If you're able to take Nord this close to a loss, now you've been in that position, now you know how it feels like, now you can start to push yourself psychologically through that point. Yes, they have a hard schedule, but let's be real. Would it ever get harder than this? Probably not. So... still have hope for them, and we could maybe make it really interesting between Veneer and Verdant for the rest of the split.
Well, those are going to be some banger games tomorrow, and you can catch them all from 5 p.m. GMT or 6 CET tomorrow here on the NLC Twitch channel. That is going to be it for us today. My name has been Middlecott. That has been Veteran. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you soon.